On tonight's edition of the Overtime, tennis takes a big spot on the show as NAU women's tennis is getting ready for the Big Sky tournament, as well as NAU golf also getting ready for their bid to the Big Sky tourney as well. So that's all that more here on the Overtime. Thank you for joining us and welcome to this edition of the Overtime, Northern Arizona's only sports show. I'm your host, the handsome man, David Ahumada. We have a packed show for you tonight with a lot of local sports action. And joining me is sports reporter Jason Freidman. How are you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing great, David. I'm really excited to be here. We got a jam-packed show coming up, so let's get right into it.
Well, Jason, this week had a big storylines, to say the least, for tennis within the Flagstaff area among the high school squads. Now, which storyline intrigued you the most over the past week?
Well, the team I've been keeping an eye on all season is the boys team over at NPA. Right now, the boys are sitting at a 10-1 record and have just won their first sectional title after destroying Sedona 9-0 this past Tuesday. They're heading into the postseason ranked 5th in Division III and will host at least a first-round matchup in the state tournament. And they can host a second one, too, if they can move into the top 4 before the season's over. After that, the games go into neutral sites through the rest of the tournament. But keep in mind, this team was undefeated until they played Flagstaff earlier this week, and they could do some serious damage in the state tournament.
I would personally have to head out to Coconino for the best story in tennis this season, as their girls team achieved their first winning season in the history of their program. They clinched that win with the victory they had over Mingus 7-2. And that concluded their regular season sweep of the Marauders. Faith Dabb and Kaylee Baker did their job in their doubles contest before Baker ended up leaving her singles competition due to an injury. Hopefully she'll be ready to go by tournament time. And Ellie Rudder and Bethany Rudder both took their singles matches as well in their matches. Congrats to the girls and good luck the rest of the way in their season. And also, Jason, up here at NAU, you have the NAU golf team preparing for the Big Sky Conference Championship in Chandler this Sunday through Tuesday. Who will have the magnifying glass placed on them for this tournament matchup?
Well, David, this team is getting ready for those Big Sky Conference Championships, like you said. Those are going to be getting underway this Sunday down in Chandler. And this team looks to be in a real good spot as they're heading into those championships. Earlier this month, they competed in the Cowgirl Classic, and they came in 3rd out of the Big Sky schools, only trailing Idaho and Sacramento State. Kim Suentes was the leader for the Jacks, finishing 19th overall in the tournament and 6th out of competitors from the Big Sky. Look for her to lead the way for the Jacks as they get into the conference championships this weekend.
Well, Cifuentes has done a lot over the past week, Jason, as well as Brittany McKee. But I think Coach Brad Bedortha needs to get them to a great, calm demeanor going into this tournament. In golf, the biggest thing is to remove all that stress and nerves in order to get the ball to head out in the direction you need it to go. And this will be a big week for the girls, and we will hope that it turns out well for them as, again, they get ready for a lot of competition in the Big Sky. And for our final topic, the fact that the women's tennis team will be also heading out to the Big Sky tournament after they won their senior day matchup with Portland State is a big-time story, to say the least. Which players on the squad have helped the most in getting to this berth?
Well, that dominating senior day win over Portland State's got this team headed to the Big Sky tournament. And the ladies really dominated the early matches at the top of the card, but the key to this team's success will hinge on whether or not they can grind out wins in the middle matches, as they showed they're able to do this week. Sarah Brown provided a perfect example of this, winning her match in the 6th spot, coming back to win the 2nd and 3rd games after dropping the 1st one. If the top of the card can get the job done for the Jacks, they should have the depth to cruise through these conference championships.
Well, the Jacks certainly will be in contention for the Big Sky title with all those players you mentioned, Jason. But the big thing I look at is that they seem to be in their top form when they're in conference play. Sitting at 3rd in the Big Sky, they have an impressive record of 7-2 over the last season, with their last match coming up this Saturday against Montana State in conference play. If they can get by the tough competition between Idaho and Sacramento State, you can certainly love the chances the ladies have to bring home the title. And anyway, Jason, we'll see you later on in the show. And coming up after the break, I went ahead and sat down with Coach Jack Murphy to discuss his season in review for the NAU men's basketball team. Stay with us, folks. Welcome back. I'm David Ahumada.
And I'm Jason Freidman. And David, earlier today, you got to sit down with NAU men's head basketball coach, Jack Murphy. Let's take a look at that interview.
Jack Murphy, thank you for being here on the Overtime set with us. And first of all, congratulations on a terrific season from you and the rest of the Lumberjacks this year. I mean, getting all the way to the CIT finals, it's a big step for the college, being able to get that far into a postseason tournament and things like that. And really, you guys did it in a very special kind of way. You guys had a lot of adversity, especially going into the Big Sky tournament at the very least. I mean, you guys had the issue going into the semifinal game, the fan that ran onto the court and whatnot, but you took that difficult moment and you turned into a great run for the team as a whole. How great does that have to make you feel, for not only for yourself but also for the team, you know, going into this offseason now?
Well, it feels really good. You know, after the conference tournament, we had won 19 games after winning our first round game against Northern Colorado, and it would have been a good season if it had ended there. But we had the ability to turn into a great season by taking the CIT bid, as you mentioned. We knew we'd have to open up on the road, at least for the first 2 rounds. And the young men did a great job at going down to Grand Canyon, getting a victory, then going to Sac State and getting a victory. The first 2 postseason wins in school history, and then coming home for 2 amazing games at home with unbelievable energy and atmosphere to help us get to that championship game against Evansville on April 2nd.
And you mentioned the first ever postseason victory for NAU's basketball program for the men's side. And you actually weren't there to be a part of that because you had been suspended by the Big Sky, but the team still did perform to the expectations that I'm sure you had set out for them going into that first round in the CIT. Watching that game from afar and seeing how the team was performing, I mean, it's kind of like coaches feel a little bit like dads sometimes, I would imagine, and you have to feel proud for the kids as well as, you know, your staff as well, to be able to rise to the occasion when you weren't going to be able to, you know, provide another aspect of the game.
Yeah, you know, in the lead up, Wes Pfeiffer had the scout, and I knew Matt Dunn would fill in great for me as the interim coach for that game. But you're right, I was watching at my brother-in-law's house down there in Arcadia, and I was going crazy in the first half. You know, we didn't guard very well in the first half, and the adjustments that Matt and Wes and Coach Kruger made at halftime were fantastic, and really, you got to give the kids a lot of credit for dealing with that adversity. And you know, you're coming back from just the previous Friday having a huge disappointment in that loss at Montana to the following Wednesday, you know, competing in the middle of spring break. And coming back, you know, after being down at the half, they could have laid down and just ended the season right there and gone and enjoyed spring break. But they wanted to fight and win that game, and I was so proud of them. And I remember with about 3 minutes to go, I got in my car, started driving down to the arena so I could meet the team, win or lose, after the game. And they did a fantastic job. And the bus ride back up, which I was on with them, was one of the best bus rides we've had all year.
And speaking of bus rides, I mean, the CIT tournament was not very kind to you guys in regards to scheduling for traveling and things like that. I mean, you went from winning the semifinals to having to travel, what was it, 2 days, like the next night to go to the finals. I mean, the traveling had to be a big issue, but your team was still able to provide that, you know, that fire to compete. That had to be also a big thing for you as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we hosted the home game against NJIT in the semifinals on Tuesday night. And the game gets over around 8 o'clock local time. Well, at 1:30 in the morning later that night, we all met at the Flagstaff Airport, hopped on the bus, and caught a 5 a.m. flight out of Phoenix to go to St. Louis, and bus from St. Louis to Evansville. But the Big Sky Conference prepared us for that. Big Sky travel during the conference season's an emotional roller coaster, to say the least. You have fingers crossed all year long, hoping you're not going to get caught in snowstorms, whether it's North Dakota or the Montanas, Idaho. So our kids had dealt with some harsh travel conditions throughout the year, and they had always bounced back and performed. And I thought we performed really well in the championship game, considering the circumstances.
And, well, at the very least, I'm sure that you guys not only take a lot of that going into next season, but also a couple of frequent flyer miles as well after the tournaments and everything that you guys went through. But anyway, Coach Murphy, I want to say thank you very much for joining us here at the Overtime. And, again, best of luck to you for next season. We hope to have as much of a packed crowd in the Sky Dome there as we had in the conference tournament games that we had earlier this year. So thank you very much, and good luck to you the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Thank you to Coach Jack Murphy for that. And again, the guy seems to not have any time to himself, Jason. I mean, he's already going out and trying to get some new recruits for the next year's season.
Yeah, and they're really just coming off one of the most impressive seasons in the history of this program. This is the first time that they've ever advanced to a national postseason championship, the first postseason win that they've ever had. They set a Big Sky Conference record by playing 38 games, and Chris Yonke also set a Big Sky record with for free throws made in a season.
Definitely so, and a very impressive season to say the least. Thank you again to Coach Jack Murphy. Now, Kelsey, from what I hear, you've got a good weekend in sports for us. I mean, how's it looking over there?
Yes, David, this weekend looks packed, and I'll tell you more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the OT. I'm Kelsey Matoxin with previews. This weekend is jam-packed with high school sports, so let's jump right into it. This Saturday, Flagstaff High School baseball will play Goldwater at home. The first pitch will be thrown at 11 a.m. Flagstaff softball will play Bradshaw Mountain at 1 p.m. at home. Coconino High School track and field will compete at the Valley Classic in Phoenix this Saturday. NAU track and field will compete at the Mount Sac Relays this Saturday, as well as the Beach Invitational. NAU men's tennis will play Southern Utah as well as Portland and State this Saturday and Sunday at home. NAU women's tennis will play against Montana State and Montana this Saturday and Sunday. NAU golf will compete at the Big Sky Championship in Chandler, Arizona this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well, that's all we got this week, so make sure to come and check out your local sports.
Thank you, Kelsey. And that's a lot of sports to get down to, and especially with all the Big Sky tournaments going on. I mean, you got to wonder which one can you pay attention to. You got golf, you got tennis. I mean, there's a lot going on right now in NAU sports.
Well, I'm really excited about these tennis conference championships coming up. I think they're on a great roll right now and looking to take some momentum heading into those championships.
Definitely so. We'll be sure to check those out. Anyway, folks, thank you all for tuning in to the Overtime this week. For Jason Freidman and Kelsey Matoxin, I'm David Ahumada, and we'll go ahead and we'll see you next week here on the Overtime.